rush. Like this entire game is just predicated on you checking drive rush, and then when you're preempting them and just whiffing them in the case that he might try to run at you, right? You press it again. Now we're going for solar plexus to get those plus frames in order to not engage with your drive gauge, right? Unfortunately, this is a game where you're going to have to use it to get in some cases.
We don't do that here.
And while I don't mind a defensive play, when you're overly defensive, that's when it becomes a little bit of an issue, especially when your anti-airs doesn't seem to be as strong as your ground game currently. Okay, I like the way we're starting off here. This is a great way to start off. They've shown us already that you're willing to try and parry my fireballs, which means that you can get blown up. Okay, I do initially have a couple of worries about how you're throwing out your buttons here, right? Namely because around this 1600 range, they're going to start with punishing you a little bit better. So whiffing is a teaching moment, you know? So, but this is just one whiff. It could have just very well been an accident. We'll see what happens next. The dash was a little unexpected. Good check on the drive rush. Unfortunately, we did not get the combo. We did get the combo the second time. Nice check. I think at some point you have to start buffering a little bit more often, right? I understand we're just going for the immediate check here, but it'll also serve you well as well, especially if you do have meter to work off of, to try and buffer in a parry input just so that you can get the subsequent drive rush off of it. So let's suppose off of this situation you decided to actually buffer in your parry by pressing crouching medium punch into parry. At that point in time, you can then drive rush and kill him easy peasy. Mind how we're playing, we do seem a little bit more passive, but it's a little bit fine seeing as he has to engage with you, and that's a great way to close out the round. Just waited for him to drive rush at you, interrupted him, and cooked him. Fairly simple, fairly easy. Okay, nice check. Again, wouldn't mind, like, not only the reason why it's good to also buffer your parry in or buffer your drive rush in is because it also gives you corner carry, right? And while it's good we're able to do this successfully mid-screen, it would also be a lot stronger when they're in the corner and then they have to kind of guess through that jungle in and of itself, right? While it's fairly easy for you to do it mid-screen, let's suppose you're just standing there or crouch for blocking, waiting for them to do something committal like drive rush, like jump at you, then you know they could possibly try to sneak in a drink. They could possibly try and just do low forward drive rush, and you know, you're giving your opponents kind of a lot more opportunities as opposed to when forcing them towards the corner. If forcing them towards the corner, then you feel a little bit more comfortable being a little bit more aggressive, which I would kind of wish we see a little bit more of here, but we'll see in a little bit. But Broski only knows how to drive rush. Nice. Here I would even say just level 3 straight. The reason why obviously we want to level 3 straight here is we want to burn him out. Now that he's burnt out, he only really has level 1 to get him out of the situation. We've used our meter, and you know, now they're in a really uncomfortable situation to close out. It's something that served me really well while at Evo, and it's something that you should always be looking to take advantage of, because if your opponent is in burnout, that's when they get super and uber desperate, and we want to go ahead and take advantage of that anytime we can. We get hit by super level 3, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but notice how we went from a situation that was very in our favor to a situation where we're almost dead and it's guess for game. These are the sort of things that we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of while we have the hit, so that when this does not happen in the case that we decide not to do it. Okay. Yeah, we tried to check drive rush. Obviously, we have to be super mindful. We were very successful in the beginning in regards to checking drive rush, but we always have to keep in mind the situation can be very variable. What that means is that, like, if he decides to do standing heavy punch from slightly further away and you get counter hit, now you're in a situation where you got counter hit standing heavy punch. He gets a rod off of it. Either A, he gets a drink, or B, he gets corner carry, or C, he gets both, right? So it's not necessarily the best situation to put ourselves in. It's just more so the micro decisions that we're making that kind of hurts us. Now back in the mix, let's see what happens. Okay, we're doing a great job of checking our opponent. However, we're not being the aggressor in any of these situations in a way. I don't know, I'm not sure why you're not using low forward drive rush a little bit more. Now the reason why I say that is because this is your main way of getting in on offense, right? So right now we're more so depending on neutral options, which again, this is not a bad option, but we do need to sometimes take the initiative, right? A lot of the time that we saw last game was more so you setting up dungeon charge and then kind of waiting for him to drive rush at you so that you can kind of check him, right? And while that's successful in a lot of areas, we also want to be pushing our opponent towards the corner so that we can get our better offense started. This should be a deaded. Now we're in the corner. Let's see how we try and get out of the corner. Go tech. Not sure why we did this, because this is a little, you know, a little spicy. Not sure why we doing that. And that was very purposeful. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's very purposeful. So I'm not sure why we did this, but preferably not, right? Especially when we whiff solar plexus. Not sure why we're going for that. It does seem that when it comes to getting in, you don't necessarily want to use your drive gauge to get in. Like, how many times have we seen you do raw drive rush in to get in? How many times have you even seen you just honestly just jump forward? Right, we've only seen jump forward like once or twice at this point. We're not really exuding all of our options. We're just hyper focusing on checking drive rush at this point in time, which can be a flaw. And once again, like, our opponent is just kind of looking for the opportunity to drive rush. Like, this entire game is just predicated on you checking drive rush, and then when you're preempting them and just whiffing them, in the case that he think that he might try to run at you, right, you press it again. Right now we're going for solar plexus to get those plus frames in order to not engage with your drive gauge, right? Unfortunately, this is a game where you're going to have to use it to get in some cases. And while I don't mind a defensive play, when you're overly defensive, that's when it becomes a little bit of an issue, especially when your anti-airs doesn't seem to be as strong as your ground game currently. And that can be a little bit of an issue, and that, I'd say, is your biggest area to expose or to work on. Okay, last game up, let's see what else happens. Okay, we did choose up forward, which I'm not against at all. We went for dungeon charge here. Ideally, we want to either use a target combo or after post donkey kick instead of just trying to wake up with it. Not exactly sure why we decided to wake up with it, right? I'm sure you know that there are much better ways, and neither did our opponent show us that he's willing to play that passive, that you can get away with it. In game 3, it just seemed a little bit weird to try and take advantage of, right? Now we're in this corner situation. We have kind of proven that we're a little bit uncomfortable in the corner. Like, for instance, this donkey kick does seem a little bit ill-placed. We go back here, we push them back. This was good. Get them in charge, I'm perfectly fine with. But you kind of already seen that Jamie is in the air already. So this is why I would actually contest the fact that you went for this immediately afterwards, right? You already see him in the air. Perhaps you're trying to catch him on landing, but even then, because he has the option to dive kick, that's what made it very odd to me that you decided to do that. That was a good anti-air, however. Ryu players around the world, please, okay? Stop plus, okay? I need y'all to stop pressing this like it's plus. It like, for a while there, the way y'all be pressing this button would legit make me feel like this button is plus. this button's not plus, okay? And if you can take advantage of it, sure, I guess, you know. But at the same time, if someone just decides to press back at you, now you're looking at the roll my button, okay? I think that might have been the first low forward drive rush we see. Okay, now we can just place it uber passive. Nothing to, oh, this is the whipping issue. Okay, we have to be very careful as to why we're pressing stand light kick. What are we pressing stand light kick for? We're gonna see if it was off the drive rush. Okay, so you did want to check it off of the drive rush. You probably would have been better off just trying to do the same crouching medium punch that you've been doing. I get what the strategy was, but because you've been so accustomed to pressing at crouching medium punch timing, now that you wanted to press crouching standing light kick, you're trying to use crouching medium punch timing for a standing light kick punish. So then you got blown up for it and now you're dead. Okay, where are we gonna use low forward drive rush? Nope, solar plexus always does the job pretty good. Okay, again, we have to be very careful. It's like the 4th time or so that we've whiffed a button, right? These are opportunities your opponents are going to take. Granted, our opponent's not going to check them every time, so maybe it's not necessarily all that noticeable, but every time that you whiff here, you're giving your opponent the opportunity to go ahead and whiff punish you, and it's put you in quite a few situations where you were stuck in the corner because of it. Mary, you know this is plus. You know this, okay? A lot of the time when this happens and you're unsuccessful on the parry, right? If you want to be cheeky, you have one of 2 options out of this, okay? If you want to be cheeky, you can try and go for EXTP because they know they're plus, they know they're gonna press, but you trying to press off of this instance doesn't make any sense to me because you know they're plus. It's a little bit of a messed up situation for sure, but we definitely know that they're plus here. Those are generally the things that I've seen. I can definitely go in the lab and then kind of go over a couple of things. Nothing too crazy, to be honest. I think you're on the right track. However, we do need to go over a couple of things. With that being said, let's go. Okay, so let's talk about it for a second, all right? Obviously, when we play neutral, right, you're looking for opportunities to get your ninja charge, and you're kind of just abusing the fact that you have a good check, you know? And it's fine. I don't mind how you were playing, right? Here's the thing. At some point, we have to be aggressive, okay? A couple of times we decided to jump in, right? Obviously they weren't too successful on the opportunities that you want to jump in, namely because you didn't utilize it all too often, which is fine. What I would say is that sometimes I think you need to start getting in there with your drive rush jab. Now the reason why we want to get in there with drive rush jab, obviously you already know, right? You can get your party started that way, and then you can get your substantial hit into donkey kick and then go about your business that way, right? Obviously this is a good check. Sometimes it's good to just get in there, right? Get in there, start the offense and get it started, and then push them towards the corner, right? The entire match namely was spent out here, aside from the points in which your back was to the wall here, right? The majority of the match was spent out in mid-screen, and while that's not necessarily bad for you, it's also simultaneously not advantageous. Basics of the basics in this game is the fact that you want their back to the wall because you can start your offense like OD, and you can bully them OD in the corner, right? You can bully them OD in the corner, right? And then go for your offense however you want to go for it, right? And because we're not taking them to the corner or making an actual advance towards the corner, we're spending time here and making it more variable to whatever happens out here, right? So let's say we're right here and we're playing the game right here and we're checking him and we're keeping space away from him, right here. He is not comfortable enough to try and drive rush here, right? He'll more than likely try his options at like low forward drive rush. He might try to jump dive kick, right? He might try out very other options, but he has significantly less options. While out here, he can just decide to go for this. If he has enough drinks, he can go for dive kick, and he's not gonna go for dive kick while he's in the corner like this. This is just like him. If he's insane, then he'll go for it. Obviously, we can't account for insanity, of course, but we want to make sure that we're choosing options that will put us in advantage. Okay, so 1, use your drive rush jab a little bit more, right? 2, when it comes to this option here with your standing medium punch, okay, your standing medium punch, let's look at it together. All right, your standing medium punch, okay, it's -1. Okay, and now while I understand the fact that a lot of people will let you get away with something like this, you need to be very mindful of the fact that you're crutching towards this. Okay, especially, I don't know if your goal is to play in tournament or whatever have you, but your opponents will catch on the fact that you're trying to do this all the time, right? And then they're just gonna crouch jab you or whatever their 4-frame button is, right? This option here, okay, solar plexus, while good because you can press it from long distances away, right? If your opponent decides to just kind of throw out a low forward to test the waters, or at a certain point just decides to low forward and buffer into drive rush at that point in time, at that time you just get hit. So that's why I say the safest way to get in is to in fact use your other options, right? What are your other options? You use low forward drive rush, you use standing heavy punch drive rush, right? These are options that are afforded to you, right? Crouching medium punch drive rush, especially crouching medium punch drive rush, because if you are successful on the attempt to check a drive rush, we're pushing them towards the corner. Once they're in the corner, they're uncomfortable, right? Very basic stuff, but we spent most of our time here. And while playing out here is not terrible for you, it's also not good for you either, right? Solar plexus was our only way to get near our opponent at all. And then we showed jump maybe twice in like 3 games, and then twice or 3 times in 3 games. And while I admire your ability to not jump in this game full of jumping jackrabbits, sometimes we do have to show this option, right? Just to test, see if their DPs are as good as they are. Sometimes even check cross ups, see if they got cross ups or not, right? If they're trying to walk out of it or whatever they're trying to do. These are things that you need to start trying to incorporate, right? At the beginning, we were using fireball into the fireball light hashogeki stuff off of parry. We did that at the beginning, right? And then after a certain time, we stopped using it at all. So we stopped showing that option. In fact, on that topic, using raw drive rush in at all was completely out of the game completely, right? That's why I was saying I was having an issue with how you were starting your offense, because it only consisted of this and just waiting for a check. So moving forward, what I would like for you to do is just be a little bit more aggressive, right? Either through button drive rush, raw drive rush, right? And then when you do get your turn, try just after your throw, just try getting in there, getting started, right? Once you're started, then you can push them towards the corner. Once they're in the corner, you can bully them a lot easier if they're here than if we're trying to check their whatever they're doing with crouching medium punch. As for the checks, I get that they were one shot. Sometimes it's better to just commit to what you were doing because you're comfortable in this, as opposed to try and change it up because you know they're one shot. In accordance with that, I know Jamie in particular, because he has the triple punch, he can actually burst through this. But if he happens to miss a singular one off of this chain, right, you can actually DI him. And in that situation, if he does DI back, he's still one shot and he still dies off of the instance. With that being said, I hope this helps a little bit more. If you have any questions, comment down below. Also, anyone who is interested in coaching, feel free to comment down below what your CFN is, and you might get in on these situations. With that being said, guys, have a good one, y'all. Peace.